Hello, everyone. My name is Chaitanya Padhiyar, and this is an introduction to environmental engineering and just engineering in general here at UBC. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Surrey, BC, and I'm a second-year environmental engineering student here at UBC. So why go into engineering? Well, personally, I believe that if you're someone that's interested in STEM, there is some form of engineering that will interest you. Here at UBC, we have a wide variety of engineering programs, from environmental, civil, chemical, to even fields such as biomedical, electrical, computer, or mechanical engineering, as well as a few others. So I personally believe that there is some form of engineering that can interest anyone. Solving problems is a really big part of engineering. In fact, that's essentially what engineering is. From anything from designing a circuit for a phone to solving problems with city development. Solving problems, if that is something that interests you, definitely give engineering a close look. Last but not least, it's no secret that engineers generally tend to have good career prospects. In fact, some of you may have heard this from your parents. And I will say that based on what I've seen, this is generally true. So just another reason to consider engineering. So why environmental engineering specifically? This is the major that I'm in right now. Personally, I feel that environmental engineering will open the door to lots of different industries. I'd say that the 5 main industries here would be water treatment, city development, renewable energy, contaminated site remediation, and environmental consultation. Environmental engineering at UBC is also a really close-knit community. In fact, my year only has 40 students. So we're almost like a big high school classroom where we all know each other, we're all good friends. And last but not least, I believe that environmental engineers are working towards a good cause, which is to help mitigate the effects of climate change and to stop pollution and just protect the earth in general. So if this is something that interests you, I would look into environmental engineering. So a little bit more about the environmental engineering program here at UBC. In terms of courses, you'll take a mix of civil and chemical engineering courses, as well as some environmental engineering courses too, where you'll have lots of discussions and a little bit of design work as well. In terms of internships and job opportunities, a lot of these are based in the 5 industries that I mentioned earlier. However, the world is a very rapidly changing place, as is the field of environmental engineering. So I do believe that since climate change is not going away anytime soon, neither are environmental engineers. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to message me on LinkedIn or just send me an email and I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for listening. Hello, everyone. My name is Chaitanya Padhiyar, and these are my tips for first-year engineering students at UBC. When it comes to lectures, my first piece of advice would be to take notes. This will make sure that you actually have a reason to pay attention during lectures, and it'll keep you engaged throughout. This is also important for when you need to remember something important that your professor says. My next piece of advice would be to ask questions, because asking a question, no matter how dumb you think it is a lot better than just not knowing what to do and just sitting there doing nothing. My last piece of advice for lectures would be to try avoid copying slides word for word. I would instead recommend trying to word it your own way. That way you kind of understand what you're actually writing down rather than just blindly writing it down and having no idea what the professor actually means. For homework, I recommend starting early for a few reasons. First of all, this will ease a lot of stress around deadlines. And also, starting early is a good way to figure out what you don't understand. And that way you can fix this right away, rather than waiting for the last minute. Next, I recommend attending office hours. Office hours are a great place to ask your professor as many questions as you'd like. And it's also a good way to get to know your professor, which is important if you would like to ask them for a reference or if you want to, say, do research with them. My last piece of advice would be to not copy from your friends. for the obvious reason, as well as the fact that you're not actually going to learn anything by doing this. And this is going to be really obvious by the time exams roll around. For studying, I recommend studying with friends, not so you get less work done, but so you guys hold each other accountable, because you don't want to be that one friend that just doesn't study when you guys are all studying together. I recommend switching up your study spots just to keep things fresh and to not get bored. And I recommend studying consistently. This is probably the most important tip here. It is a lot better to study a few times a week than it is to study all at once the night before the exam. I know this might have worked in high school. It did for me, but I promise you this does not work in university. And just some tips for life at UBC. I recommend trying to find a good school and social life balance, because I believe that neglecting one of those will actually affect the other as well. I recommend trying new things because it's fun. It's a great way to meet new people. And here at university, this is the best time to do exactly that. And just remember that it'll be okay. Engineering school can be difficult at times, but just remember that you're all in the same boat together. And as long as you try your best, you'll do fine. If you have any questions at all, feel free to add me on LinkedIn and shoot me a message there, or just send me an email. Thank you guys so much for listening. Hello, everyone. My name is Chaitanya Padhiyar, and I'm here to talk about my favorite courses in first-year engineering at UBC. The first course I'd like to talk about is AppSci 100 and 101. These were some of my favorite courses because we got to do a lot of design work, we got to work in teams, and I felt that this was the closest experience to actual engineering that we got in first year due to the design work. So here's a few examples of some of the projects that we did in AppSci 100 and 101. Over here, we have the autonomous claw that we designed using an Arduino Uno, as well as some household materials such as cardboard, tape, rubber bands, and string. We also have an engineering drawing of our solution right here. Next up, we have an adaptive device that I designed using SolidWorks, which is a CAD software that you will use in first year, most likely. This solution was designed for a paralyzed client that is unable to lift grocery bags by himself. So our design is meant to help him with that. The next course I'd like to talk about is AppSci 160. This is an introductory course to coding in C, and it was also my first time coding ever. I will admit that this course was frustrating at times, but I would say that it's frustrating in a good way because it taught me to persevere through tough problems. Anyone that's familiar with coding might know how frustrating it can be if you're just missing like one semicolon in your entire code, and that's just what stops it from running. But I do think that you learn a valuable lesson from this course. I also think that this course was very important for developing my problem-solving skills as an engineer, because the main idea behind this course is taking a big problem and dividing it into sub-problems and then solving those to help simplify a big problem. So here's an example of some slides that I pulled from my notes in first year. This is some pretty basic topics. I believe this is initializing arrays in C, but even if you have no experience coding at all, the course and the instructors will guide you through the entire process from the very beginning, and this will be really basic topics in no time. The last course I wanted to talk about was Phys 157, which is Introductory Physics and Thermodynamics. I personally thought that this course was very well taught because the lectures were engaging. The professors would ask a lot of questions to the students, and I thought that they were very clear when explaining each topic. I also thought that the topics themselves were very interesting for this course. So here's an example of a problem that you may see on a homework assignment or even a midterm. Again, if this looks scary, no need to worry. This course does take you again right through the very beginning, and by the end, this should be a pretty basic problem. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask me by connecting with me on LinkedIn and shooting me a message there, or by sending me an email. Thank you guys so much for listening.